So much, guys. Elle Duncan, Ashley Brewer, what's up, everybody? We hope you enjoyed that semifinal game between Italy and Spain. Baseball fans get to enjoy the best pitcher in Major League Baseball in action tonight. More on that later because, Elle, it's time for the finals. Let's go.
And then there were two, Ashley. We're so ready. The Desert, as you know, set to host their first NBA Finals game in almost 30 years. That's just one of many storylines. We are just over 3 hours away from tip to game one, and here is what we know. We know that at long last, one of the longest active title droughts in the NBA is going to end. Since joining the NBA together in 1968, the Suns and Bucks have combined to win one title. That was Milwaukee's, and it was 50 years ago. As for the Suns, they're the first team in NBA history to reach the finals after a 10-year playoff drought. The NFL's Bucks actually just did that earlier this year, of course, and we remember that ended with a championship parade and a tipsy Tom Brady. And for Milwaukee, it's 8 years in the making. The Bucks used a one-month span in the summer of 2013 to draft Giannis and trade for Chris Middleton. Both rank in the top 5 in playoff scoring for the franchise and are now hoping to add a little jewelry. Let's set the table with the players involved.
Walking into here, seeing Mr. Larry on every poster, it gave me goosebumps.
If there's a souvenir shop, I'll probably get my wallet and buy something.
It's obviously something that millions and millions of people around the world would give a lot to be a part of. The fact that myself and my team and everyone in this organization has an opportunity to play in it is incredible.
Being able to be a kid from Little Rock, Arkansas, being able to represent myself, being able to be in the NBA Finals, it's a dream come true.
This is a kid's game that we play, you know what I mean? So this is a blessing and an opportunity to play this game. I think our team knows when to lock in and when we got to enjoy the moment and enjoy ourselves.
Everybody count us out, and the fact that we just keep moving forward, all you can really do is just congratulate us.
Crazy because every year when you fight to try to get to this moment, taking hits, fighting, and actually be here before a game, it's hard to put it in perspective.
It's kind of the survival of the fittest mindset. You know, I don't think it's really about the throw hands, but you know, the closest thing you can do that without doing it. We're not here to, justify what we're doing to anybody else, for real. We've had goals for this group and aspirations for this group since day one. We're on the constant pursuit to get better.
It's an opportunity for a lifetime, and really just leave everything out there. Believe in yourself because you prepared for it, and most of all, just enjoy it, everything that comes with it.
Enjoy, we will. SportsCenter on the Road is presented by Rocket Mortgage as we say hello to Malika Andrews, who's joining us now live, covering the Bucks for us. And Malika, we all want to see Giannis on the floor for game one. Of those storylines I just ran down, that's the one that's lingering over all of this. What can you tell us about his status as we were about 3 hours from tip?
Well, he has been upgraded, Elle, from doubtful to questionable. But as Adrian Wojnarowski and I have been told, Giannis Antetokounmpo has been going through around-the-clock treatment because he is one of the ultimate competitors in this league, and he wants to be out on the floor. Now, Giannis was able to go through a workout yesterday. It was away from the cameras. It was separate from the practice that the team went through yesterday afternoon. And Mike Budenholzer said that he's continued to make progress, but he didn't elaborate on exactly what progress meant. Now, Chris Middleton said that he's been trying to support Giannis by saying, hey, do what is best for you. Take your time. Don't come back before you're ready and risk getting further injured. This is a decision that's going to need to come down a little closer to game time, but we all know Giannis Antetokounmpo, he wants to play.
Listen, we know better than anyone. The Bucks do better than anyone. Game one does not necessarily mean you won't win the series. They got hit in the mouth against the Hawks and went on to win it all. Let's play worst case scenario for the Bucks, Malika. Giannis can't go, right? How are they going to adjust?
Well, what they've been doing for the last couple of games without him is winning by committee, and that starts with Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton is the guy, Drew Holiday said, we have ridden his shoulders all the way to these NBA Finals, and they may need to continue to do so. But what they are looking at is trying to continue to be aggressive. Drew Holiday told me yesterday that when Giannis Antetokounmpo, when he is out on the court, he is aggressive all the time. And so he tries to make up for some of that lack of aggressiveness if Giannis is unable to go. They've also been doing an incredible job of penetrating, getting into the paint. They need to continue to do that. They know that that is their game. They are big, they are strong, and they need to play to those strengths, Elle.
You said it. They are coming off wire-to-wire victories despite the fact that they didn't have Giannis in that Eastern Conference Finals. We'll see. Should they not have him if they continue that tonight? Malika Andrews with the latest as we await more news on Giannis' status for Game 1 of the NBA Finals.
All right, let's do a little flashback. The Bucks are making their first NBA Finals appearance since 1974. Current coach Mike Budenholzer was just 4 years old. They were led by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who had over 32 points per game in the series. The Bucks eventually lost Game 7 at home to the Celtics, but Milwaukee, with Kareem and Oscar Robertson, had won the title 3 years earlier, back in 1971. All right, let's go back to 1993, the last finals appearance for the Suns. Devin Booker wasn't even born yet. Chris Paul was 8 years old, and Monty Williams was still playing college ball at Notre Dame. Charles Barkley was league MVP that year, the first for the franchise. But not even Sir Charles could stop Jordan. A clutch three-pointer from John Paxson, of course, would give the Bulls the title. SportsCenter on the Road is presented by Rocket Mortgage. And we now welcome in our friend Dave McMenamin. So, Dave, let's get back to this Suns team. I first want to ask, though, Chris Paul handling the NBA Finals. This is his first appearance. How is he feeling as he approaches this first game of the finals of his career?
Yeah, actually, he said the weirdest part about this is probably the same thing a lot of my friends in their mid-30s with kids are feeling right now, that there hasn't been any games to watch over the last 6 nights. He said he's fallen into this routine where he's watching the other playoff series that are going on. Well, obviously, having clinched their spot in the finals close to a week ago, he's run out of things to watch. He said he's trying to remind himself that even though he wants to be locked in and focused on this incredible opportunity, it is still a kid's game. So he's trying to bring that levity and, mix of focus and levity to Suns practices. And also being a kid's game, he said he always listens to the input of his son and of his daughter when they have something to say about how he's playing on the court.
All right, it's loud in there, which means it is time for the NBA Finals, right? We're still waiting to hear about Giannis, his status for tonight. But assuming we do see him at some point in this series, what's the Suns' plan to defend the two-time MVP?
Actually, I spoke to DeAndre Ayton yesterday, and as excited as he can be about making the finals in his 3rd season in the league at just 22 years old, he has this incredible challenge around the corner of trying to stop Giannis if and when he comes onto the court. And he told me the 2 keys here are try to defend without fouling and wall up the paint. Obviously, you want to try to get Giannis shooting jump shots rather than finishing at the rim with dunks and layups. He said part of that strategy will just be matching the physicality and matching the competitive level that Giannis brings to the court. He said, if I do that, we'll have a chance.
Yep, it is do or die. The NBA Finals beginning tonight. We know if Giannis has the choice, he will do so. Just got to be healthy to do it. Dave McMenamin, thanks so much.
You know it's a special night in the NBA because SportsCenter with Stephen A. is coming up here at 7 o'clock right here on ESPN. In the meantime, we're lucky enough to get a few minutes with Stephen A. right now as he's joining us live. And I want to talk role players right now, Stephen A., in this thing, right? Because with Giannis either unavailable or let's say potentially not at 100%, it's going to fall back on Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. Who would you say is more important in this series of those role players, Middleton or Holiday?
Well, the first most important thing I want to say is that your hairdo is lovely. I really, really like the hairdo, Al. It's really slamming. So I got to give you props where it's due, okay? That's number one. Number two, let me get right to it. Drew Holiday, I think, is going to be incredibly pivotal because of the way that he's been playing offensively. But the key thing is this. The ball is in his hands. He's got to make sure he doesn't turn the ball over. He's got to shoot effectively from the perimeter. But the biggest thing, Al, is this. He's got to defend. Because when you talk about the Phoenix Suns and whatever their success is going to be, it's predicated on the greatness of CP3 and Devin Booker. If you neutralize them in any way, you've got a significantly better chance of winning this series. If you don't neutralize them and you just allow CP3 to go haywire like he did in Game 6 against the Los Angeles Clippers when he dropped 41 points in about 35 minutes without a single turnover, then guess what? The Phoenix Suns are going to walk away from this series as defending NBA champions.
Yeah, we saw it. We saw Drew Holiday take exception to how Trey got it on him, right, in the first couple of games, and he decided to turn it around, and boy, did he. Before getting hurt, he certainly shut down Trey. We'll see if he could do the same thing with the Suns. I do want to talk about Giannis and Chris Paul, right? They're both currently in their first NBA final. Who would you say is under more pressure to win a title and why?
Well, I think you're going to look at CP3 simply because he's the one that's been here for 16 years, okay? When he was playing in the NBA, we don't know how old Giannis was at that particular moment in time. At least I don't off the top of my head, but I don't think he was even in high school, for crying out loud. We're talking about a guy in CP3 that's been around for quite a long time. It's 16 years. He's universally recognized as one of the most illustrious point guards this game has ever seen. I think if he wins this series and wins a championship, he's a top 5 point guard all time. That's how I feel about him. You're talking about an Oscar Robertson, a Steph Curry, a Magic Johnson, a great Isaiah Thomas, people like that, with the Jason Kidds of the world, the John Stocktons of the world. But CP3 is right in that conversation if he wins an NBA championship. So you look at this team as presently constructed, you see that Giannis has been compromised with that hyper-extended left knee, and you say, excuse me, the Phoenix Suns have the horses that it takes to win this series, particularly with a hobbled Giannis Antetokounmpo.
My favorite thing about this series, Stephen A., is that the most seasoned person, the person with the most experience, is Jay Crowder. So if anybody needs to know, he's the only one that's ever even been to the NBA Finals on either one of these teams. That is remarkable. Stephen A. going to stick around, talk a little bit more about Game 1. I do appreciate you recognizing my hot curl summer. So thank you very much, Stephen A.
Gotta work. Gotta work.
Some more headlines, of course. We have our NBA Finals tonight, and as we told you, Buck star Giannis Antetokounmpo has been upgraded from doubtful to questionable for Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight against the Suns. And sources tell our Adrian Wojnarowski and Malika Andrews that Giannis will be a game-time decision with that knee injury that's kept him out of the last 2 games for Milwaukee.
It's been a lot, man. I want it not just for myself, but for everybody in that locker room.
Coach, I'm trying to calm down, Coach.
You don't have to calm down.
This is nice and all, but we're going for Larry for sure.
Everybody stays ready, everybody stays locked in, and that's all you can ask for.
Knowing Giannis, he'll probably be back at some point in the series. This really is it. This is the last 7 games.
We still have work to do.
Our NBA analyst, Tim Legler, joining us now. So what are the biggest keys for the Bucks in this series, regardless of whether we see Giannis on the floor out there or not?
I'm going to put a lot of this on Drew Holiday, Ashley. I think that Drew Holiday is critical on both ends. I love how aggressive he was at the close of the Atlanta series. And there were times I watched him in the regular season and I wanted to see more of this. This is Drew Holiday, the all-star guard from New Orleans. This is the guy that they needed. And I think sometimes he tends to defer to Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo. He needs to go out there, put pressure on Chris Paul to guard him, to wear him down. And then on the other end, his defensive prowess is well known in this league. He's a big, physical defensive guard. And if I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, I am primarily utilizing him on Chris Paul in this series. I think Pat Connaughton could chase Devin Booker around. Chris Middleton can get some of that as well. But I'm using Drew Holiday to try to get into Chris Paul as much as I can and try to wear him out physically on both ends. And I think that's why, for me, Drew Holiday is a huge X factor in this series.
Certainly combined for 52 points in the last 2 games for the Bucks, so that'll certainly help. But give us a prediction for Game 1 and the NBA Finals as a whole, starting with who wins tonight and why, Legs.
Well, I like Phoenix to win the series, so I like him in Game 1. I mean, if I like him to win the series, I don't want to say they're going to drop the first game. I think they win the opener, and I think ultimately, I think this is a team that just looks like they've got something special this year. They check every box, everything you want. Star backcourt. They got a big man that's emerging as a star in this league. Great role players that play both ends of the floor, exceptionally well coached, and they really trust each other. I think the Phoenix Suns have captured something throughout the course of this season. They've gone from being a great story to a great team. And I think ultimately this is going to be a long series. Would not shock me to see the Phoenix Suns hosting a Game 7. And if that's the case, you got to love the home team in that situation.
All right. Hey, whether it's 4 or 7, you're saying Suns, so I'll take it. Suns trying to snap the longest active title drought in the NBA at 52 consecutive seasons. Tim Legler.
2.5 minutes or so, 2.5 hours rather or so until Game 1 of the NBA Finals. But for Chris Paul, it's been 16 seasons and 123 playoff starts to get to this moment. Something that he almost willed himself, as Kirk Goldsberry details.
In his 16th year in the NBA, Chris Paul is finally in the finals. The Suns' 36-year-old point guard is one of the best to ever play the position, and it all starts here, in the mid-range. Paul shot a blistering 51.6% from mid-range this year. That's the 3rd highest by any player over the last 25 seasons. The only players to post a higher number are Dirk Nowitzki and Kevin Durant. CP3's bread and butter spot has always been at the right elbow. This season, he led the league in both buckets and efficiency from his hot spot. Paul is arguably the best mid-range scorer in the league. But CP3 can also burn defenses from downtown, shooting a fiery 40.5% from beyond the arc this postseason. He proved his range in the clinching Game 6 against the Clippers, when he went 7 of 8 from downtown and sent his old team packing with a playoff career-high 41 points.
Through his legs, pulls up for three. Oh, stop it! CP3 looking at the sellout crowd here, ready to pop his collar and say, how do you like me now?
If we do what we're supposed to do, I'll get the last laugh.
As good a jump shooter as he is, Paul is also a world-class distributor. These dimes show us all 122 made shots he's assisted on in these playoffs. Paul's 8.7 assists per game this postseason is his highest clip since his last year in Los Angeles. If the Bucks want to win these finals, they better do what the Clippers could not. Slow down Chris Paul.
There's a whole generation of kids that are like, what are those things that just dropped behind him? Those are coins. Okay, they're called change. Dimes, if you will. SportsCenter on the road, presented by Rocket Mortgage. As we are joined by Malika Andrews, who, yes, is an NBA reporter, but it feels like for the last week or so, she's just on Giannis watch. I know that he is a game-time decision, but we're about 2.5 hours from tip. So where are we at in the process, Malika, of figuring out his status for tonight?
Yeah, absolutely, Elle. So he was upgraded from doubtful to questionable this afternoon. And as Adrian Wojnarowski and I have been told, he's been getting around-the-clock treatment in order to try to be in a position where he may be able to play. Now, Giannis Antetokounmpo, yesterday, he was on the court. He did a separate workout from the afternoon practice that the team had. Mike Budenholzer said that he is progressing well, but declined to say exactly what progressing means, what he was able to do and what he was able to do without pain. Now, Chris Middleton has said that he has told Giannis, take your time. Don't rush yourself back and put yourself in a position where you could re-injure yourself. But obviously, it would be a welcome surprise if he was able to play with this team.
Welcome is one way to put it, right? Let's just assume, though, worst case scenario here, conjecture, Giannis can't go. Malika, how are the Bucks going to adjust?
Well, what they've been doing over the last couple of games that they have not had him win by committee, Elle, and that starts with Chris Middleton. As Drew Holiday has said, they rode Chris Middleton's shoulders all the way to these finals, and they may need to ride them a little bit more. Drew Holiday said that, look, Chris Middleton, he doesn't shy away from the moment. He is perfectly comfortable carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. But Drew Holiday, he's also had to step up in the absence of Giannis. He told me that he knows that Giannis is aggressive every single minute that he is on the court. And so in his absence, he's trying to make up for some of that offensive as well as defensive aggression that Giannis Antetokounmpo brings. So this is something that needs to be done by committee. We saw Bobby Portis, Brooke Lopez step up in absence of Giannis, and that's going to need to happen again if they want to steal a win here in the Valley.
It was truly impressive what they were able to do to close out the Eastern Conference Finals. A little bit different. You're talking about a loaded Suns team, but we'll certainly see, because again, we don't know yet if Giannis will definitely be out. Malika Andrews is going absolutely nowhere. She continues Giannis watch for us as we await 2.5 hours ahead of tip for Game 1.
All right, and while she does that, the undefeated's Mark Spears joining us now from Phoenix, talking about my team from the 480 or 602, depending what side of town you're from. Devin Booker, who is the Suns' leading scorer, is not only in his first finals, this is his first playoff appearance. And man, has he showed up and showed out. What does he attribute all of this postseason success to?
Well, I think much of it has to go to his father, Melvin Booker, a former University of Missouri star, who also played 32 games in the NBA. When Melvin was, he got Devin to move to Mississippi when he was a sophomore in high school, and Devin credits him for taking his game to the next level. They also used to enjoy this Lil Wayne song called Mr. Carter that came out in 2008, where Jay-Z challenged Lil Wayne to take the rap game to the next level. Melvin Booker challenged Devin to take it to the next level, and recently when Devin saw the song playing on his satellite radio, he took a picture of it and sent it to his dad as a thank you.
I love that. I don't know a whole lot of rap, Mark, but I do know that. Hey, Mr. Carter, right? I won't sing. Okay, this is a reunion for Bucks forward PJ Tucker. He spent 4+ seasons in Phoenix. What's he saying about facing his former team?
Well, I mean, he has a warm spot in his heart for Phoenix, even though he's trying to win this championship. You got to remember, he got cut as a rookie from the Toronto Raptors, went overseas for 4 seasons in Europe, and then he came back to Phoenix, and Phoenix brought him back to the NBA. He talked to his agent and actually his wife about perhaps going to Russia instead, decided to go to Phoenix in 2012, and ultimately just refurbished his NBA career, became a starter, and the rest is history. So this place is where he resurrected his career, and he's certainly very humbled every time he comes back here when he talks about how the Suns actually saved him, saved his NBA life.
Wow, incredible. Hey, not a lot of people like that 123-degree heat. Didn't bother me, but good to hear a good experience, and it sets him up to be at the stage he's at right now.
I'm a tropical person. I don't like this, though.
Find a pool, my friend. Appreciate you so much. Thank you. Enjoy the game.
All right.
All right. That is a look at Giannis Antetokounmpo right there, as we said. Many times he has been working around the clock to get that knee healthy. You see, he's got a wrap around his leg, and he has been upgraded to questionable for the finals opener against the Suns tonight. We, of course, will keep you updated with every single update we get on his status for Game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Chris Paul is in the NBA Finals. What do you think when you hear that sentence?
Man, it sounds damn good. Damn good. I write something on my shoes every game to say, can't give up now.
We do what we're supposed to do, I get the last laugh.
Oh, here we go. 2 hours and 16 minutes from now. Tip from Phoenix. It's the Bucks. It's the Suns. And how about the job that Monty Williams has done in Phoenix as we take a look at his arrival? Entering this postseason, he had a 2-8 record in playoff games. He already has 12 wins in this postseason. An absolutely incredible turnaround. And Mikal Bridges, when you think about that 2018 NBA class, Trae Young, him, Luka Doncic, I mean, just absolute stars. The future is certainly bright as we get ready. And when you say stars, well, you know who's going to show up. SportsCenter is on the road, presented by Rocket Mortgage, as we say hello to Stephen A. Smith and Michael Wilbon, who are both joining us now from Phoenix. We're going to see them at the top of the hour, about 17 minutes from now here on ESPN SportsCenter with Stephen A. I want to start, because I showed Monty, and we're going to get to the coach perspective on this, guys, but I want to start with, obviously, the biggest storyline, and that is the uncertainty surrounding Giannis, who is a game-time decision for Game 1 with that hyperextended knee. How do you think the uncertainty surrounding his availability is going to impact this series?
Well, I definitely think it's going to impact the first 2 games of this series, Mike. I'm just of the mindset that if you're the Phoenix Suns, you take advantage of it because the Milwaukee Bucks are not the same without him. He's averaging 28 and 12 throughout these playoffs, nearly 28 and 13, and we all know what a freak he is. He's 6'11", he's strong, he's gained about 60 pounds of muscle since he came into the NBA. We know he can block shots, he can defend, and when you're a guy like DeAndre Ayton on the other side for the Phoenix Suns, Giannis Antetokounmpo can have a profound effect on your game because he has that kind of capability. With him, you could win this series, maybe even in 6 games. Without him, you could lose in 6 games. That's how much of a factor that I think that he could potentially end up being, Wilbon, in this series.
Well, remember, in the previous series we saw, the Los Angeles Clippers did not take immediate advantage of the absence of Chris Paul, and it cost him. I mean, we were at a point where it could have been 3-2 the other way in that series. And so, in this case, the Phoenix Suns need to win tonight. I mean, that sounds crazy going into a series saying, well, this is a must-win. It isn't a must-win, but the Suns, to feel good about themselves, they've been playing great. They've had 2 sort of off games in the entire playoffs in 3 rounds. And they know how well they've been playing, particularly defensively. And if Giannis is less than himself, I expect him to play. If you go from doubtful to questionable in a day, and then they start talking about game-time decision, I expect to see him out there. And if he's not out there tonight, I expect to see him shortly thereafter. But the Phoenix Suns need to win and take advantage of this. They've taken advantage of everything, every opportunity they've had in the postseason. Anthony Davis, you know, even LeBron with that ankle, they're taking advantage.
What about this question, Wilbon? I'm of the mindset that the Milwaukee Bucks shouldn't even play Giannis the first 2 games of the series.
We are in agreement.
I think they should sit him down, even if it's at risk of them going down 0-2 before they go back to Milwaukee. The first 2 games of this series are on the road. They're not at home back in Milwaukee. Make sure he's ready to go. Probably needs an additional week. That would help immensely. That's where my mindset is. What about yours?
I agree with every word you just said, because you're talking about going from Tuesday to Sunday. Game 3 in Milwaukee is not till Sunday.
That's right.
And you give him all that. You get 5 more days of recuperation and treatment and all the things they do now, staffs do to help players get ready quicker than ever before, I would not play Giannis in these 2 games. I was sort of surprised when I heard that he was upgraded from doubtful to questionable.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be upgraded. Let's transition to CP3, Chris Paul, because we know what he's meant to the Suns. He's the reason, a big reason, why they're here in this NBA Finals series. This series, a lot of people believe, is going to make or break his legacy as an elite point guard in the game. I will say this, he's still an elite point guard in the game, but if Chris Paul wins this championship, I would put him as one of the top 5 point guards in the history of basketball. No disrespect to the John Stocktons or Jason Kidds of the world, but I think about Magic, Steph Curry, Oscar Robertson, of course, the great Isaiah Thomas, and then Chris Paul is right there. Your thoughts?
That he's right there. And I hate that we have gotten to a point of a culture where you have to have that validation, as if all the other work doesn't count, right? As if Chris Paul hasn't been great in all these series. But that's the way it's evaluated now, and he knows that. He wants this, I don't even want to say desperately, he wants it with as much passion as he's probably ever wanted anything in his basketball life. Chris Paul he's been so much to this team. Did you hear DeAndre Ayton say a couple of days ago, he said this in an interview, he said Chris Paul's been everything to me. DeAndre Ayton hadn't been coached hard. Guess what? Monty Williams is coaching him hard, but Chris Paul's coaching him hard on the floor in timeouts. And Booker says the same thing. Those guys understand what Chris Paul means to this team. And so, look, you don't know if you're going to get this chance. This is not one of those things where you got 4 young stars and they're all rising at the same time. You know what's the Western Conference is going to be like next year?
Oh, Lord.
You get Jamal Murray back and you get Kawhi back. And
in the Eastern Conference, Brooklyn will be back.
So you got so many teams.
We suspect that Kyrie Irving will be available. We know KD will be available and James Harden will be available.
You can't sit back and say, hey, we got close and next year we're going. No, this is their time. And so Chris has that urgency about this series.
Let's transition one more thing. The coaches, Monty Williams, Mike Budenholzer. Who has an advantage in this series and why, in your estimation?
My bias has already been documented from being with you and with Tony on PTI. Look, I don't understand what Milwaukee's doing. I don't understand what Coach Bud is doing. I don't understand. Bobby Portis averaged 11 points on 60% shooting in 18 minutes a game in the first round. He didn't even play games 5, 6, and 7 against Brooklyn when you need to at least somebody get a hand in Kevin Durant's face. Coach Bud doesn't even have him in there. I don't understand it. They go from dominating in the paint one night or one half to just throwing up threes. I don't understand it, but they're here, so he must be doing a lot right. He must have done a lot right to this point to prepare them, Stephen A.
Well, you can say that. I won't go as far as Charles Barkley when he called it dumb. They played dumb basketball. That doesn't make them dumb, but you can be very intelligent, very accomplished, very astute, like Coach Mike Budenholzer is, and do some inexplicable things. And that's what we've seen transpire in these playoffs. I'm definitely going to look at Monty Williams. I'm going to see the pulse of his team that he's clearly had all season and he continues to have. They're not the roller coaster that the Milwaukee Bucks have been. So based on that reality alone, along with the fact that he was first on my list for Coach of the Year honors, I had Tom Thibodeau of my New York Knicks as number 2. Monty Williams is number 1. I think he's done an outstanding job. I think he's proven himself to be an exceptional coach on this level. And I think in this series, I would give him an advantage because half the time, I'm not going to lie, I don't know what the hell Budenholzer's doing.
I don't know what he's doing.
Those are the games they lose, but it's not more than they win, so I'll give him credit for that.
We know what Monty's doing, and more importantly, his team knows what he's doing. His players believe, absolutely. And you can't look at what they're doing and just shake your head and say, I have no idea what's going on, like you do with Milwaukee. Don't know how much that's going to count, but Monty Williams, if we're talking about an edge and where you're going to put your check mark, that's where I'm putting mine as well.
An edge and the check mark. When you get that from Michael Wilbon, the Hall of Famer, that counts for something, Al. That counts for something. Back to you.
Can we just at least say this, though, Michael Wilbon and Stephen A. Smith, there's so much that we don't know. We don't know if Giannis is going to play. We don't know if, yet again, the Suns are going to benefit from facing a team that doesn't have their biggest star playing. What we do know is that tonight we can hand out congratulations. Congratulations in order to Torrey Craig. He is going to win a ring no matter what. He is a member of the Suns. He was with the Bucks. He will be an NBA champion despite who hoists Larry O'Brien Trophy at the end of it all. So thank you. Much more with Stephen A. Smith and Michael Wilbon as we prepare for Game 1 tip in about 2 hours from now. Mike Wilbon's going to join us over on ESPN 2 for more SportsCenter at the top of the hour as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Enjoy the game.
strength in the postseason since the mid-'70s. For Milwaukee, the opportunity is mired in medical mystery, with two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo's status for Game 1 still unknown. And for future Hall of Famer Chris Paul, it's a chance for further validation here in the Valley of the Sun. Welcome inside Phoenix Suns Arena. We are live at the finals, presented by YouTube TV. So great to have you with us, and so great to be back inside in person for the 74th NBA Finals. I'm Matt Weiner here with NBA champion Steve Smith, two-time NBA champion and Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas here in the building in Phoenix, and remotely with us tonight we've got four-time champ and Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal, two-time NBA champion Kenny Smith. Gentlemen, welcome one and all. I'll go to our remote guests here first. Shaq, we'll start with you. What are your expectations here?
Well, I don't know who did that intro, but if he was my coach, I feel like playing right now. Isaiah, spread it out. Kenny, you stay on the wing. Steve Smith, you go just throw it to me. I'm going to work. If they double team me, I'm going to kick it out to you guys. What I expect is two young teams that don't really know what they're in for. So this first game is always a feel-like game. I had a podcast today, and they asked me, how did I feel when I first made it to the finals? And Kenny, I hope you don't disagree, but the reason why we lost to the Rockets is because when we made it to the finals, we were so happy, Steve and Isaiah. And then I could recall that as an organization, we never talked about winning the championship. We always just wanted to let's make it to the finals, make it to the finals. And we had 10 days off. We were so happy to be there. We didn't know what to expect. And my good friend Kenny Smith and the Rockets, they just put a whooping on us. But I expect two young teams that's going for it. Giannis is the face of the league. Chris Paul, he's definitely one of us, 16 years. I'm hoping Chris Paul wins. I really am.
Fellas, for you, Zeke, do you have a sense of what we're in for with this unusual series?
I think it's going to be a good series. I think it's going to be an exciting series. And like Shaq said, you know, a lot of us are rooting for Chris Paul. When you get this long in the tooth in terms of your career, and you've had the type of success that he's had, you do want it to culminate with an NBA championship. And to see him in the NBA Finals, I think it's a good feeling for all of us. But I'm expecting to see a really good series from Milwaukee and also Phoenix.
Kenny, expectations for you tonight and moving forward?
Well, I would have to agree with Shaq. You know, that first run when we played the Knicks, it took me about 5 games to realize I was in the NBA championship. you know, playing and, you know, the hype around it, you know. But the second time, I was a lot more comfortable, actually, when we played Orlando. But I'm just happy to see, you know, Steve Smith, Isaiah, and Shaq, man. I mean, look at Shaq, man. Shaq didn't grow up like that where he had wine cellars in his house. Hey, Zeke, we know where he came from, man. Look where he is, man. And Zeke, I tell you, remember when he was growing up and they told you you can't have marble on the floor? Well, we got it on the walls now. We just came a long way, y'all.
Hey, Kenny, I love that intro because when I met Shaq, we met in Orlando. You remember that big fella in the Playboy All-American? And you said it best, Kenny and Shaq. And I said that first time, you know, it was the first time for me, but I had that guy named Tim Duncan, Isaiah.
Oh, yeah.
So I felt pretty good because you just throw it down there. When I look at this series right now, Matt, I think it's going to be a young star born in this series. And I'm looking at one of these guys. They get a chance to go from that good to great to superstar right now. And I'm looking forward to that because a lot of those young guys have this chance. But when you have the best player in this series, you feel pretty good. But who is the best player in this series? Isaiah, without Giannis maybe not playing.
I think we're going to find out. I mean, you have to say Chris Paul, but you never know.
Well, it's almost entirely first-timers as far as the finals goes, including, we think, at some point, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And, of course, that's the biggest question before Game 1. Will Giannis play? Of course, he missed Games 5 and 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals after hyperextending his left knee in Game 4 against the Atlanta Hawks. Today, the Bucks upgraded him from doubtful to questionable, and that's where our Jared Greenberg picks up the story.
Yeah, Matt, it is the most pressing question. It has been a week since Giannis Antetokounmpo hyperextended his knee in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals. As you mentioned earlier today, Giannis went from doubtful to questionable, although we still have no indication as to whether he will play or not. Reports came out earlier today that Giannis has been receiving around-the-clock treatment. And as I reported yesterday in front of an army of observers, Giannis went through his first real workout at a private gym not too far from the arena. One thing we do know is that since this building here in Phoenix has undergone a remodel in the last year, there is no more practice court. So if the Bucks are going to get one last look at Giannis to see how that knee has responded from yesterday's workout, it's going to have to come on this court here, right behind us, here in Phoenix, ahead of Game 1. Matt, we'll hear from Mike Budenholzer within the next half an hour and hope the coach gives us more of an update on Giannis' status.
All right, Jared, thank you much. Smitty, we've been kind of watching when we can Giannis out there on the floor. What do you make of what you've seen, if you can tell anything? And secondly, we're watching, the Suns are watching, as well as the Bucks medical personnel as well.
You know, man, I think it was promising. Look right here. He getting a chance to drive that basketball. Isaiah, he's driving it hard. He went through his dribbling routine. You know, I can't comment on his injury, but you're in the finals. I know he wants to get a chance to play. The way he's warming up, to me, Isaiah, right now, he's playing in Game 1.
Look, if I'm his teammate and I'm watching all this and he don't play, I'm mad. We're in the NBA Finals. We're in the NBA Finals. It's taking us this long to get here. We got a chance to win it, and you warming up and looking this good. Hey, you can't come to the locker room and tell me you're not putting on the uniform. And the other thing, if you had a private workout in an arena and the Detroit Pistons was in the playoffs or in the finals, and the opposing guy had a private workout and he was hurt, we going to know that guy working out. I mean, in Detroit, everybody, hey, Isaiah, hey, man, Giannis over here. You want me to put it flat in his tire?
Hey, Shaq, how about that as a teammate? What kind of standard do you hold your star player to with regards to an injury with these stakes, the NBA Finals?
Before I speak, I need clarification. Is it 2-2-1-1-1 or 2-3-2?
It is 2-2-1-1-1.
Okay. All right, I thought it was 2-3-2. Okay. If I was Giannis and I was 70% or more, I would play. But you know, listen, he's been off a week. His conditioning may be messed up a little bit. And then, you know, look, coming from not playing, going to playing full speed, I could tell that it's still something there in his knee, because when he even drove the ball hard, Steve, he landed on that right. You know, he made sure that he landed on the right. He didn't really land on the left. I know he's not going to be 100%, but if the format was 2-3-2, I would say take a game off. Hopefully we can win Game 2. You get one or two more games rest, and then you play those 3 games at Milwaukee. See, right there, he drove hard, but he didn't land on it. You saw that?
Hey, Shaq, I played that way my whole 14 years.
Hey, all I'm saying is this, Shaq. If he doing all that and I'm watching on TV and I'm in the locker room, hey man, you got to put that number 34 jersey on, man. I don't want to hear nothing. Give me that 70%.
Hey, Kenny, it's a different NBA, obviously. In 2021, as a teammate, are you saying something to Giannis about, hey, we need you, man. If you can play, you got to play?
Well, I think Giannis is built the same way Isaiah thinks. Like he might be new school, but it's the individual. He has to have that in him to say, I'm not going to sit this out.
I don't want to see that.
Oh. I think that, it was an unbelievable injury. We don't have to see it multiple times because we all hate to see it. But you know what the funny thing was? Like, I wasn't going to say it, but I might as well. He was actually when they were playing the Hawks, he was on my floor in the same hotel. And the dude was walking around in the hotel, and I'm like, yo, you look great.
Yeah, no, he does, right?
He was walking on the, but I tell you, he had no shirt on, a towel, walking on the floor. I'm like, where you going? He's like, oh, I was just getting some ice. I was like, well, if I had a body like that, I'd probably walk around with no shirt on in the hotel too. Like, the guy looked great. He looks like he was ready to play. And I think that he will play, judging by the intensity that he's going. Because if he's doing a private workout, he would have known then, Zeke and Shaq and Steve, like, I did my private, I ain't ready. I don't need to be out here now.
Yeah.
But since he did the private, now I was like, oh, I got to get warmed up for the game.
Yeah.
Hey, Kenny, I'm loving that marble back there. I'm coming out there to see that marble.
Come on, baby.
I'm loving that marble.
They said we couldn't have it. We have it now, baby. We got it now.
Looking good, guys. I'm not sure the hotel mobility should be the barometer that the medical staff uses, but he does look good out on the floor tonight. There's Devin Booker, one of those young stars we talked about. Suns are dressed for the occasion tonight,
looking good now. He's looking good now, man.
Suns all looking good. Yeah. Much more coming up. Live in the finals.
If this man has to retire without a ring, he will never be the same. Like, he wants it more than anybody that I know. And so I know that is important for him. You know what I mean? And he wants it. And so you make it happen. Like, as wives, as mothers, you just make it happen.
Chris Paul's wife, Jada Paul, back in 2018 on an edition of Open Court Families, talking about how much CP3 wants that title. He waited 1,213 games to finally reach the finals. Only Kevin Willis played more before making his first finals appearance with Smitty back on the 03 championship Spurs team. Remember, Chris Paul finished 5th in the regular season MVP vote as well. And a lot of that wasn't because of his counting numbers, Zeke. It was because of his leadership and the impact he made on this franchise. But as we've seen in the playoffs, he can do a lot on the floor as well, and he will be a factor tonight.
He most definitely will, Matt and Smitty. And this is the most opportune time that he's probably ever had in terms of winning the NBA championship. And he's so good in transition, coming down, feeding Aiden off the high screen and roll, and then high pick and roll. This is his thing, but when he's not in high pick and roll, he can isolate. In the mid-range game, he's a killer at. When everyone was saying don't shoot the mid-range, he stayed traditional, he stayed stubborn, he stayed true to his fundamentals, and now he's the best mid-range player in the game. Reading the high screen and roll, again, most defenses aren't set up to play the mid-range shot. Chris Paul has figured it all out, as he always does, and as a leader, as a captain on the team, as a floor general, not only does he know how to get himself off, but he also understands how to get others involved. And that's what makes him a true champion. And, well, I would say that's what we're hoping for, that he can become a true champion.
41 in the closeout game against the L.A. Clippers. And, Kenny, CP3 has all the credentials, right? He was just named All-NBA for the 10th time in his career. We could go down the whole rundown of his career resume. There was this thought in some quarters that he needed to reach the NBA Finals to sort of cement his legacy. What, if anything, in your mind, does this do for his career resume?
For me, it doesn't do anything differently. I mean, the guy's been a Hall of Fame player. There's a difference between being a Hall of Fame player and having a Hall of Fame team. Like, you have a memorable team, a team that, is iconic, like the Detroit Pistons, the San Antonio Spurs, the Los Angeles Lakers, and Houston Rockets. Those are iconic teams. He's just been an iconic player. And I even think that this year probably is, a team that no one's expected to be there as well. So you wouldn't even have expected this to be happening. I don't think he's ever been put in position to say, I have the best guys around me. And today, it's even surprising that they're here. So I don't think it changes his legacy. But I think winning it now adds on to it, because this still, you wouldn't have said, is an iconic team.
16 years CP3 has waited for this opportunity. Smitty, when you think of his career, what do you think of?
I love that he's been consistent, Isaiah, in his play. And I love right now that he's getting his chance. As a player growing up, you want that one chance. And for us, it came later in my career. And then for me, like Kenny said, I didn't think he would get there in the next 2 years with the Phoenix Suns. Give him a lot of credit, give that organization. Give Monty Williams a lot of credit because those two now came back together to be able to get to this finals. But what I love right now is he is reading what he needs to do, and that is score down the stretch. And I've always loved him as a player, but seeing the way he's scoring right now, Isaiah, in the mid-range, 41 points in the closeout game for them. I mean, also the game he had like 27 and 5 in the second half against Denver. I think he's saying, I got this one chance. I'm going to turn on that scoring cap if need be.
Shaq, you're on that list. I don't know if you can see that or not, of 40-point games without a turnover in a conference finals game. What has Chris Paul meant to this Suns organization, not only in terms of what he's done on the floor with games like what we saw in the closeout against the Clippers, but his impact on the franchise as a whole here?
Well, he's definitely changed the culture. He's brought leadership. He's doing a great job of putting the young, upcoming Devin Booker under his wing. He's been a earful for, big fella there. He's talking to the big fella, how to play DeAndre Ayton. Do this, don't do that. Do this, roll this way, do that. He's been great. And, I heard this from the great Isaiah Thomas. He told me one day, he said, look, everybody wants to make a name for themselves. Everybody wants to be a great players, but only the elites can be champions. And know that if he does not win, and Chris Paul does not mess up his legacy, but I will have to disagree with Kenny. It will not add to his legacy. If he wins this, it will definitely add to his legacy. But I would like to see him on the same side that we're all on. Steve got a championship. Kenny got a couple championships. I have 4. The great Isaiah has 2. So for us, and how we think, our mentality, it's good to be a legend and this and that, but we want championship or championships under our belt before we shut it down.
We'll hear more from the former Phoenix Suns, Shaquille O'Neal, as well as Kenny, Zeke, and Smitty as we continue live from the finals presented by YouTube TV. On the way, Drew Holiday getting primed for his first finals after a monster closeout game against the Hawks. We'll hear from him next. He has been widely regarded as one of the best two-way guards in the NBA for a long time now, but in the Eastern Conference Finals, without Giannis, they needed his offense, and he provided. How much of a factor will he be against the Suns backcourt?
Me and Isaiah was talking about, I think huge, Isaiah. And like you talked about, the offense was unleashed. And one reason why is I've been a Drew Holiday fan since he was at UCLA because of plays like this. He's always kind of been humble, Isaiah, taking the back seat offensively. But watching him right now, I think he's been forced with Giannis' injury, like Charles said, to be aggressive. Defensively, he has that whisper. When I talk to guys in the NBA, especially young guys that I have all over, you don't want no parts of Drew Holiday. Reminds me of Mookie Blaylock when I played. Guys whisper saying, not at all. But his offense, Isaiah, it felt like somebody's challenged him in the park. And I think he looked in the Eastern Conference, Matt, and says, there's no Giannis, there's no Trey. I should, with Chris Middleton, be the best player in this series. Entering that series, he was only averaging about 15 points. He ended up averaging 22 points, but that one game, 27, 9, and 9. And I think right now, offensively, he's starting to feel it. It's going to be interesting watching him and Chris Paul because he's one of those guys defensively people fear.
We're about 90 minutes away from tip-off of Game 1. Still no official word on Giannis Antetokounmpo's status. A short while ago, Jared Greenberg caught up with head coach Mike Budenholzer.
Coach Budenholzer, do I need to ask the first question? What is Giannis' status? Yeah, there you go. What is Giannis' status?
He's still questionable. He just did some work on the court. We'll listen to him in the back. We'll listen to the sports performance, the medical group, and update if there's any changes when appropriate.
Do you feel if he is able to play that you will get 100% of Giannis?
I think what all players say this time of year, everybody's probably a little nicked up and banged up, and I know he'll give us 100% of what he can give. That's you can't ask any more from anybody.
You got some special performances out of Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and others in Giannis' absence. Whether Giannis does or does not play, how do you continue to try and maximize those guys yet again?
Yeah, I think it was good for the group, good for those players, good for us collectively, to play a Game 5, a Game 6 without Giannis and know what it feels like, be able to reference that, draw on that, and If he plays, then great, and if he doesn't, we'll be ready to go.
So Giannis is or isn't playing?
He is or isn't. He's somewhere in there.
Coach Budenholzer, thank you so much. Good luck.
Thanks, Terry.
All right, guys, back to you.
That's Arizona native Mike Budenholzer, by the way, not revealing anything, if he knows it or not. Kenny, if Giannis can play and he's not 100%, how can the Bucks best utilize him tonight?
Well, the one thing about Giannis is his athleticism is what makes him so dangerous. So if he's not 100% athletically, that wall that all these teams talk about building becomes a little bit easier because he can't explode by people. But then he becomes a jump shooter, and which you probably want. But he might be a better jump shooter because he always shoots long. So maybe if he doesn't have his legs under him, he'll probably be able to knock some shots down. But athletically is where he is. He draws double teams. So now all of a sudden, you don't have to double. You have to double guys differently. If he's on the floor, you can't leave shooters. So you can win games like they've done against the Atlanta Hawks without Giannis, but you can't win an NBA championship without him.
Giannis averaged 40 in the 2 regular season games against the Phoenix Suns. And
you say it so casually.
I know. Well,
40.
I know. It's
40.
Giannis numbers, right? We get used to those. He was 21 of 28 in the restricted area in those 2 games. Same question to you. If he's 75% or something like that tonight and maybe can't be that explosive to the rim, how do the Bucks use him?
The 75%, use him close to the rim. Because if he's 75% and he's giving you those type of numbers in the restricted area, then Matt, start him in the restricted area, Smitty. Don't allow him to have to dribble, come downhill, beat people off the dribble to get to the restricted area. Actually, run your offense and start him there, then throw the basketball to him, and he looks like he's capable of making 1 or 2 moves. If he can make 1 or 2 moves and get to the basket, now he gets to the foul line. If he's getting to the foul line 10, 11 times a night, now he's giving you a chance to set your defense. Out on the road, you got to be able to set your defense, slow the game down, and ease into that first quarter, because you don't want that first quarter to just be a blowout and you're down like 15, 20 points in the first quarter.
Shaq, if Giannis is not completely himself, how can he be most effective tonight on both ends?
Well, Kenny and Chuck, they always say use him as a decoy. If he can get that 1 or 2, 3-step speed dribble into the middle of the lane, cause the defensive Phoenix to panic a little bit, and he can kick it out to his guys for wide open shots. But if I'm the opponent, I'm going to test that knee out a little bit, Steve and Isaiah. I'm going to do what's called the running box out. The way they play now, team switches, so a lot of guys are going to be very smaller than him. So when that shot goes up, Giannis has to be very, very careful about the smaller guys bending down, bumping into that knee. If I was him, if I was Milwaukee, I would say, okay, the first game is always a fill-out game anyway. Let's just see how well the team does. Let me get 1 more day of rest, couple more days of treatment, couple more hours of treatment, and then come back game 2. Because, what people need to understand that, yes, Giannis is not 100%, but if he doesn't win the championship, nobody's going to care that he wasn't 100%.
Well said, Shaq. Enjoy the beach tonight, and we'll see you post-game. You too as well, Kenny. We'll talk to you a little later on tonight after game 1.
Kenny, I'm coming, Kenny. I'm coming.
Come on, baby. It's only 95 here, baby.
And it's a great moments in Phoenix Suns history happened here in 1997, Game 4, and that man Rex Chapman forced overtime against the Seattle Supersonics. And now there's a whole generation of young fans who know him as a Twitter star instead. Rex, good to have you with us, man.
It's good to see you guys. It's been way too long.
Yes, absolutely.
Pandemic, all that stuff, man. It's great to be in a building. And I know you guys haven't been in this building for these playoffs yet, have you?
No, I haven't been in any building.
Just wait. I'm telling you, it's a little bit of, it feels like a throwback. I mean, especially, none of us have really been in buildings. It's just a great atmosphere. And
do your palms get sweaty?
Yes, they do. They do.
You can hear it. You can hear it on TV.
Yeah.
You can hear it on TV. Great crowd here. Of course, you played here. You worked for the Suns as well. How excited are you that this organization and these fans get this moment tonight?
I'm really excited. And as you can see, this is the same arena, but it's been gutted. I mean, and it's all kind of come together here at the same time. Robert Sarver has taken his lumps over the years as an owner, here and there. But if you remember, Mark Cuban did as well. Michael Jordan has at times. People go through a learning curve. I think that he's gone through that a little bit. He came in, he hired James, and James immediately hired Monty. And had he not done that when he did, Monty probably would have been going and coaching the Lakers. So that changed the culture completely here. Monty came in, and, we talk about it all the time about how, it's college kind of has that rah-rah atmosphere.
Right.
These Suns, they're kind of that way. And they love Monty Williams. There's not a fake thing about it. They love their coach. They will run through a wall for him. So, I know the fans here in the Valley haven't had a playoff team in over a decade. I'm really happy for them.
Rex, I got a chance to compete against you, but I will say, this. I watched you at Kentucky. Rex is one of those guys. I love Rex. And then that shot.
Man.
But before that shot, you had about 10 points in that fourth quarter. You were rolling. I know we're going to talk about that shot, but talk about how you were rolling that fourth quarter to get you guys back, because you were down 12.
Man, thinking back, we don't think a lot about it while we're playing. We're just kind of doing it. I got lucky. I really got lucky. When I came to Phoenix, they had Kevin Johnson and Jason Kidd. And then Steve Nash came in.
Wow.
So, and we were playing small. So I was kind of able to play the 3 spot, Steve, and have bigger guys chase me around out here on the West Coast. They didn't post up as much. But playing with Jason and KJ, really, nobody could really focus on me, and I could kind of run free. So kudos to them for really making me better.
You play with some of the greatest guards you just named to ever play the game. And now we watching Chris Paul, one of the greatest to ever play the game. Talk about how easy playing with a Jason Kidd or a Kevin Johnson or a Chris Paul makes it easy for a scorer like yourself or Devin Booker.
I wish I was asking you this question. You know the answer to it better than I. I was a 2 guard. They tried to experiment with me at the 1 in a preseason game here or there, and then I get pressured and go try to score. So immediately when I played, I played with Scott Skiles and guys who could just spoon feed me, and that made me that much better. Chris Paul, man, I'm excited to be on the set with you, because when people ask me about Chris all the time, I always say, you guys were different, but I see a lot of Chris and Isaiah, the competitor, and you do anything to win, constantly thinking, constantly communicating, knowing time and score, being, playing the game with character and integrity. And that's what Chris Paul does, and that's what he's brought to DeAndre Ayton, and it's rubbed off on all these guys. And I'll leave you with one, Jay Crowder. I don't know if you guys know this, but Jay Crowder, his dad is Corey Crowder. And my dad coached at Kentucky Wesleyan College and recruited Corey Crowder, and he went and played for my father in Owensboro. So I got to see Corey play in Owensboro growing up. He's a little younger than I am, but he was National Division II Player of the Year. They won a national title, and I'm just so happy to kind of be experiencing that with his son here in the Valley.
Who's the only player in this series with finals experience, which is amazing for these two teams. We got to go. You're wearing a Suns T-shirt, so I know who you're picking. How many games?
6. But did you guys see Giannis out here working out?
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come be playing. He got to play.
He's got the 2 things I didn't see. I didn't see. He was explosive. He went up off 2 feet. I didn't see him go off his left leg, and I didn't see him react defensively.
So wait a minute. If you on the Bucks team,
there you go. You didn't have
I'm playing. If he walk in your locker room right now and say he's not playing,
I know.
What would you say to him?
I know. I love it though. I love it. And what I love too is that the games he was hurt, he was dressed out and down there with his team on the sidelines. He's in it. If I had to bet right now, I would bet he's going to play. Right?
Yeah, me too.
It's Rex Chapman.
I bet Rex can still hit that shot though. He's still in great shape.
No. Just wear bigger clothes.
Media mogul Rex Chapman. He tweets, he podcasts. I don't know what else he does. He merchandises.
Whatever they tell me.
Thank you. Welcome to the NBA Finals. What's the initial message to the team heading into Game 1?
Well, we've talked enough. You know, we've had time to send a ton of messages, talk about coverages, how we want to play. We messaged the guys this morning, and it was to hoop, to not forget how we got here. We don't want our guys restricted on the floor. We play free. We play with a competitive edge. We play relentless basketball, and we don't want to forget that.
A team lacking playoff experience has played with so much poise, as you referenced. How do you make sure that doesn't change starting tonight?
We try to not overcrowd our young players with a lot of information on that lack of experience. They know it. And we also have guys like Chris and Jay and Etwan who have brought a ton to our team as far as wisdom and acumen and how to respond in certain situations. So we've relied on that.
It seems like the Bucks are giving you some extra homework, preparing for what could be two different teams, whether Giannis plays or not. How does that change your approach to Game 1 tonight, not knowing his status?
Well, you always prepare for the best, but it's not like the guys that played a lot when he wasn't playing aren't going to play. And so we've been prepared for if he plays, if he doesn't play, that's something that we would do anyway.
Do you have an expectation that he will play?
It's not our concern. We respect the Bucks. We respect Giannis. He's a decorated all-world player. And we respect that, but we also have to remember who we are and establish the floor with that.
Appreciate your time, Coach. Best of luck tonight.
Thank you.
As Coach of the Year runner-up, Monty Williams, first on my ballot. As you take a look at DeAndre Ayton, he's always got the ice going.
I cannot wait, Matt and Isaiah, to next.
Devin Booker all the way to the finals after that long wait to appear in the postseason. He's got 7 games of 30 points or more and averaging 27 on the playoffs so far. As we welcome you back inside Phoenix Suns Arena, live at the finals, presented by YouTube TV. Isaiah Thomas, Steve Smith, I'm Matt Weiner. Great to have you with us. Great to be inside the building. What kind of an imprint can Devin Booker make on this series starting tonight?
You know, Smitty said earlier that there's going to be a young superstar that arises and come out, you know, at this NBA Finals. And it's probably going to be Devin Booker. You know, the thing that I love about him and what Phoenix does is that he's consistent. You know, they run the same plays. And then Monty's he's an old school coach. So he's got Devin coming off baseline screens, pick the picker in the middle, dribble handoffs, all the things that he probably was taught as a young kid growing up by his father. Now Monty,
the great Melvin Booker.
Yeah, great Melvin Booker, yes. Now his father, who's still, you know, old school basketball, they're playing old school traditional basketball. And when you look at Chris Paul and you look at Devin Booker, right, they're playing traditional classic basketball, not necessarily, you know, run and gun.
All right, you're looking at a live microphone and the Commissioner Adam Silver for his annual NBA Finals address with the media. Let's listen in.
Season and a half. Appreciate COVID, your time today. It's been an incredibly unique season and a half dealing with COVID and the protocols. Let me thank the members of the media. You've often dealt with all of our same protocols, our testing, our mask wearing, and all the various restrictions around your coverage, and I appreciate you're all fighting through it. Of course, to our players and teams, it's just been an enormous physical and emotional burden on everyone. I think, you know, we see that every day. Been a lot of discussion around the injuries. Putting aside the specific data for a second, I have no doubt that the additional stress, again, physical and emotional on them, contributes to injuries. None of it is an exact science. It's something that even pre-COVID, as you all know, we were very focused on at the league. We put people in place to focus exclusively on injury prevention. Precisely why we have the injuries we do is still unclear to us. It's something that we'll continue to study in the off season. The trend line, unfortunately, has been going up for the last several years, and that's despite the tremendous additional resources our teams have put into injury prevention, the brand new practice facilities located throughout the league, the state-of-the-art equipment. It's horrific, and it's something that, of course, takes away from the competition, and these are players with relatively short careers, and keeping them on the floor is of paramount importance to us, to the fans. So it's something that we'll continue to focus on, but it's not as easy to even discern what's happening this season. It seems doesn't correlate precisely to numbers of games, to the amount of time off particular teams had coming into this season, to the density or not of the schedule. Of course, we played 72 games instead of 82 games this season, and roughly 22 of our teams had 4 months off coming into the season. So, yes, was there more of a burden on those teams that went far into the playoffs and into the finals last year? Absolutely. And it was a question of working with the Players Association to find the right balance between appropriate rest. The concerns we had about players when they were outside of our COVID protocols, as you all recall, we had a tremendous number of positives when the players first came back between the break of last season and coming back this season, and we knew collectively, we and the Players Association, that it was healthier when the players were under the various protocols put in place by the league together with the Players Association. And we also, on the back end, we're looking for a way to get back on schedule. We were trying to contain the issues around COVID to the extent possible, and that's something we still don't know, to 2 seasons. So it also meant trying to do everything we could to get back into our natural season next year, meaning starting in October and ending before July. And of course, we're in July this year, something not optimal for the league, both in terms of television viewership and for the players as well. I mean, just as a reminder, in discussions with the players, they have sort of a natural clock themselves, and maybe that's related to injuries or not on their bodies. They played, especially the veterans, sort of their bodies sort of peak at specific times in the year, and that's something that they've been conditioned to doing, again, physically, mentally, emotionally as well. And there's also an issue of family time for our players. I mean, when we were in these discussions towards the end of last season with the Players Association and directly with players as to when the optimal time to start this year, many players expressed a strong desire to have time, particularly in August, with their families, with their young children. Many players don't live in the same city that their families live in, and even when they do, they're on the road most of the time, or their children are back in school. And then add on top of that, the desire for many players, both U.S. players and international players, to play in the Olympics. So lots of different factors went into making these decisions. Again, it's fair game to second guess them, and I think, frankly, we may not know for quite a while until we're really able to look back when we know this pandemic is over, whether we made the right decisions or not. Few other things before I get to your questions. We are, of course, thrilled to have fans back in the arenas. We've now had, since the playoffs started, over 1 million fans back in our arenas, which is, quite remarkable, and not a place that I thought we'd be in only a few months ago. And I know I heard from many people outside of basketball and even outside of sports that when the playoffs started and they saw those full arenas again, it was a signal that maybe the worst of the pandemic is behind us. And of course, we're very much hoping that's the case. And, again, to see all of you, the media, back in our buildings covering our games. I know the players have all said it makes a huge difference to them to be playing in front of tens of thousands of fans, screaming, yelling, cheering, et cetera. That's been really meaningful for the league. So we're thrilled at that. And I don't say, for me, I see this as hopefully the end of a transition for the league, not just post-COVID, but as we're just by virtue of the teams that we saw in the conference finals, a real transition in terms of the league, of the up-and-coming new stars, up-and-coming franchises, more parity throughout the league. Again, it wouldn't be true to the data to make too large a point around one season, particularly one that may have been, that was so aberrational, but I at least say it looks like a very positive sign in terms of what the competition we're seeing around the league. Let me also congratulate for the Phoenix Suns, of course, Robert Sarver, the principal governor of the team, James Jones, general manager, Monty Williams, the coach. Just a fantastic job, and I can't say it enough for the teams that are here. You in the media here know what it's been like, but to go through these protocols on a daily basis, pre-vaccines in many cases, teams on game days were being tested 3 times a day. I mean, that's, as you saw when we adjusted when we had some game.
Looking for their first ever world championship. Welcome to NBA Countdown from Phoenix, Arizona. Maria Taylor alongside Adrian Wojnarowski.
Yes, indeed.
Jalen Rose has his glasses on so he can make sure he sees every single play.
And you look fresh to death.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Jay Williams back in the blue suit. We expected it on game 1.
I keep it simple. That boy got a fresh ball, you know it.
Absolutely. Now we want to keep it simple for you, so let's start with some of the keys to the game, okay? That's how we're going to tip off our show. It's time for the keys to the game presented by Kia. Giannis Antetokounmpo, well, he's not played since leaving Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals with a left knee injury. And so, Woj, what is the latest on Giannis as we see him warming up?
Maria, Giannis is a GOAT tonight. He is going to make his return. He warmed up before the game, and he has been going around the clock, getting treatment on that left knee. Was determined to play. He's just been cleared. He will be in the starting lineup. So this is obviously going to have a dramatic impact for the Bucks.
Obviously, hyperextended that left knee in Game 4 against the Hawks, but what we saw where the Bucks rallied without him in the game, they were able to come back and win 2. So what changes with Giannis back on the floor for the Bucks?
I think you continue to attack and have a level of confidence that your superstar is back out on the floor. And it's incredible that a 7-foot man was 13 feet in the air, landed on one leg, almost looking like his leg was going to snap like a toothpick, and he's going to be back in the NBA Finals. They're going to miss his points, and they're going to need his points in the paint.
Yeah.
20 points, 20 paint points per game.
It's a tongue twister. It's a tongue twister.
It is a tongue twister. The first guy since Shaq in the early 2000s to do so. The gentleman's been dominant.
Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here? Right? And for Giannis, look, for a guy that said he wanted to stay in Milwaukee, he wanted to win this championship for his franchise, for his city. Jay Rose talks all about time, putting on for his city. For Giannis to play in this game of this magnitude, Game 1, after seeing the way he landed on his knee, speaks volumes about the character of who Giannis is and how he reps his team.
I think we all had a feeling that Giannis wasn't going to miss Game 1 of his first NBA Finals appearance, an opportunity to win a championship for the first time since 1971. That's the last time the Bucks were able to hold up the Larry O'Brien trophy. And he's averaged 40 points on 60% shooting against the Suns so far in the regular season. But Jay, Will, you have CP3 on the brain. Like, you always are thinking about what Chris Paul brings to the court. So why don't you break it down?
Oh, it's time for Professor Jay's breakdown.
Let's get it, sir.
All right, let's go into it. This is great. So, Jay Rose, you and I have talked a lot about during the past series, drop coverage, right? Drop coverage means watch where Brook Lopez plays so far off this ball screen. This is the first matchup where Giannis wasn't on the court. You're going to see CP3 come off this ball screen. As he comes off, he's going to attach the pinch post, the elbow. This forces Brook Lopez and Drew Holiday to both recover to try to stop. Dario Saric then comes, slides open to the open spot. Bryn Forbes, the red X, he's going to be forced to make a decision. Does he stay with Dario Saric or does he stunt? You're going to see him stunt and try to get back to Mikal Bridges, but it constantly puts you in decision-making processes for the Milwaukee Bucks, and that's where the Phoenix Suns can hit you with dagger after dagger after dagger. Drop coverage is going to be imperative if they decide to play that way. I would suggest switching on ball screens, which they did 48% in their last game that they played. So once again, here's another screen. You're going to see a little side screen, a little flare by Devin Booker. You're going to look for D-Book to come off. There's nothing there. Dario Saric right into another screen. CP3 so good at this, Jay Rose.
Yes, he is.
Snaking off the screen. What does a snake mean? It's his outside, then come back inside, attack the elbow. He comes off this, and now this is the part that CP3 is so good. The vision. He looks at Dario Saric. He sees him, but he also sees the rim. Just that slight change of speed and that eye glance is enough to throw defenders off. Look, if they play drop coverage, they're going to be in trouble once again. Now, I know the last game they played, they switched 48% of the time. I think switching might be in their best interest if they start getting roasted in drop coverage and pick and roll.
Great points, Jay Will. However, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you got to use your height, your size, and your physicality to punish the Phoenix Suns. They did a terrific job in the previous series getting points in the paint. In particular, Brook Lopez. It's one thing for him to play drop coverage on defense, but I need him pounding them on offense inside of the paint if he's going to be on the floor. Bobby Portis is going to play some quality minutes as well.
Yeah, and DeAndre Ayton, you look at this Suns team and the impact he's had in the middle. I mean, there is a lot of great size of Ayton, Lopez, Giannis, and certainly Ayton there to match that physicality that the Bucks bring from the Eastern Conference.
Well, he's shooting 71% from the field. Let me say it again for the people on the back. 71% from the field. He has not shot under 50% an entire game in all the playoffs that he's played this year.
Don't sleep on this. Having Giannis back should help the three-point shooting of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yes.
Only shooting 31% from three this entire playoff. If they're going to win this series against the Phoenix Suns, the Milwaukee Bucks must shoot better from three.
You know, I can't let DeAndre Ayton pass without saying that the Suns were 19-63 his rookie season, and now they sit here in the finals. So imagine what these fans in this arena have been through and seen. So to make it to this moment really matters, being able to build here. But let's talk about matchups and what you really want to see, or what you'll have your glasses on spying on, Jalen, from up here in the crow's nest.
Easy for me. It's Devin Booker versus Chris Middleton.
Okay.
Chris Middleton is dramatically better for the Bucks when they win versus when they lose. He's shooting 15% from three in games that they lose. So that matchup is going to be crucial. Devin Booker played with a broken nose. Will he wear a mask? Won't he wear a mask? Is Chris Middleton going to be an effective and efficient closer in game one?
And we all know that Chris Middleton plays great when he's at home. On the road, sometimes it's a different story. A low-key matchup I'm looking for in this series, Brook Lopez going against DeAndre Ayton, also Bobby Portis, right? Brook Lopez is an underrated defender, good at shot blocking, good at knocking down threes. DeAndre Ayton will get tested defensively, and I think DeAndre Ayton staying out of foul trouble will be imperative for the Suns.
And it was great to see also Bobby Portis kind of stepping up. Remember, he had to start when Giannis was out, and during those games, he was able to average 14 points on 65% shooting. So that's good news for the Bucks. Maybe building a little bit more depth when you lost Giannis, and guess what? Giannis is back, and he's a go for game one of the 2021 NBA Finals. So we're ticking a little bit closer to the Bucks and the Suns. There's the reason. That's it right there. The Larry O'Brien Trophy, and for the second year in a row, when it's presented to the NBA champions, it will be in a bespoke Louis Vuitton travel case. And now it's my pleasure to welcome in Malika Andrews, who will be on the sideline for the first time in an NBA Finals game in her career. But she's not the only newbie, because there's actually only one player that has Finals experience that will be on the court here tonight. That's Jay Crowder. He has 6 games of experience, and there's no one on either team that's won a championship, Malika. So how are both teams handling the inexperience?
Well, Maria, you mentioned it. That means 32 of the 33 players that are here that are about to play tonight, they have no championship Finals experience. And so what I have been told is the Bucks all year long, they have had this mentality of we're not going to get too high and we're not going to get too low. And yeah, it's a little bit cliche, but they're planning to try to keep that mentality here, especially now that Giannis Antetokounmpo is returning. And then on the other side of the ball, the Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker.
For Giannis when he took the court for the first time in his career in an NBA Finals. But it's great to know that Giannis will be playing after missing the last 2 games with